go ahead and draw a squiggly line underneath, I think it was number 13.
Yes.
We have 4 new words today. Zadie, you will be in charge of those words. So all 4 of these will be yours, okay? Now these words are not going to go with our chapter because, like I told those of you at school, we are kind of doing this lesson from next week's chapter because we only have 4 days. And so we wouldn't have time to do it. And this week's extra lesson, this week's day 4 lesson, we can do anytime. Whereas this one I want to go ahead and get done. So you need to draw a squiggly line underneath number 13 and then write today's date. January 14th, 2021. And we're going to start with number 14. Yeah, sorry.
It's the same date as the number.
That's true. Sometimes, excuse me, that happens. Okay, number 14 is the word reptile. 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 A reptile is a noun. It's a thing, an animal specifically. And we already know this because we did it in science. But a reptile is a cold-blooded animal that has a backbone. Who remembers the science way of saying that it has a backbone? What kind of animals? What's the science way of saying that an animal has a backbone? Kingston? A vertebrate. A vertebrate. What's the science way of saying an animal doesn't have a backbone? Zari?
Invertebrate.
An invertebrate. So a reptile is a cold-blooded animal that has a backbone, or it's a vertebrate. Lays eggs and either slithers on its belly or creeps on short legs. That was an extra fact that our science book didn't tell us. All reptiles either move on their bellies, like snakes, or walk on very short little legs, like lizards. Think about it. Do we know of any long-legged reptiles? No. If you think about alligators, crocodiles, lizards, snakes, other reptiles. Kingston? Chameleon, which is a type of lizard. Michaela? Turtles, good. Turtles. Victoria?
Gecko.
A gecko, which is a type of lizard. None of them have long legs, do they? That's a new fact. We didn't know that before. Okay, so again, reptile. R-E-P-T-I-L-E. It's a noun. It is a cold-blooded animal that has a backbone. Oops, I forgot a comma here. So put a comma after backbone because it's an item in a series. A cold-blooded animal that has a backbone, lays eggs, and either slithers on its belly or creeps on short legs. Let's see. Number 15 is the word camouflage. Now, camouflage is spelled differently than what you think. There's an extra letter in there that you're like, huh? So make sure you're spelling it correctly. Camouflage. C-A-M-O-U-F-L-A-G-E. Camouflage. C-A-M-O-U-F-L-A-G-E. Camouflage. Camouflage is another noun. It's another thing. And it means blending in with your surroundings. Which most of us know what camouflage is because we've learned about it in science or we've seen the clothing. Blending in with your surroundings. So one more time, camouflage, C-A-M-O-U-F-L-A-G-E. It is a noun and it's blending in with your surroundings, not surrounding. So think about it. We know when an animal is able to camouflage, like a chameleon, it changes colors so that it blends in with whatever it's sitting on. Yes, Mason? Surroundings is spelled S-U-R-R-O-U-N-D-I-N-G-S. Or when people wear camouflage, it's usually worn while hunting or something like that in order to blend in with the trees and the woods around. Or people in the military, if they are in the military in a desert area, they wear like yellow or like that beige color to blend in with the sand in the desert area. But all of these things are worn or the animal has it in order to blend into what's around them. Okay, number 16. Is the word hibernate. Now we can really see that none of this has anything to do with bright ideas, but like I said, this is actually from the next chapter, but we're going to run out of time next week, so we'll just go ahead and do it now. Hibernate. Hibernate. H-I-B-E-R-N-A-T-E. Hibernate. H-I-B-E-R-N-A-T-E. Hibernate. Hibernate is a verb. It's an action. And it means, remember these are semicolons, not J's. This one kind of looks like a J, so I'm just reminding you. They're not J's, they're semicolons. They're like a comma with a little dot on top. That's what they are. They're a comma with a dot on top. Semicolon. So it's a verb. Hibernate is a verb. It means to spend winter in a deep sleep. Hibernate means to spend winter in a deep sleep. We know that. We've heard about that. We've heard about animals that do this, like bears. Hibernate. It's a verb. It means to spend winter in a deep sleep. Yes, Mason.
Why do bears need to hibernate when we have lots of food?
That's just, I don't really know. I'm sure there's an answer for it, but that's just the nature of that animal. I bet the fur, all the fur and the fat is probably what allows them to be able to hibernate. I think it's, you know what, I think it's because of the fact that, you know, like bears eat plants mostly, and a lot of the plants die in the winter. So in order to be able to survive the winter without eating as much, they have adapted over time to be able to sleep all or most of the winter. Number 17. Last one. So Zadie, remember these are all yours. So make sure all letters, words, punctuation marks, capital or lowercase, make sure they match. Notice there's no capital letters. The last word is, see how they used it. Did they use it as a verb or a noun? Digest. We already know this too. We know what it means from science and because we've heard this word forever. Digest. D-I-G, sorry, not D-A, D-I-G-E-S-T. Digest. D-I-G-E-S-T. It is another verb. So it's an action. Yes?
Digest is like digging.
It does look like digest. So if you're having trouble spelling digest, what can you think as you're writing it, Kingston? What can you think to make sure you spell it right? Mason? Digest. I do that all the time. I don't read it that way. I don't say it out loud that way, but as I'm writing, I think that way in order to be able to spell it correctly, so I don't accidentally use a J or something like that. Digest. Digest, it's a verb. It means to break down food within the body. So to digest means to break down food within the body. It's important to include that within the body because what if I took a piece of bread and I broke it apart with my hands? Is that digesting it? No. Digest is when you break it down inside your body. Your body breaks it down. Okay, once you're done with that, you can go ahead and put your vocab notebook away. And then open your book to page 266. Okay, so everybody should be on page 266. And remember, Thursdays, when we're in our textbooks, are our skills lesson, our text feature lesson. That's where we learn about a new text feature, like charts or tables, or what else have we learned about in the past? Using parts of a book, or, I don't know, we've learned about a lot of text features. Sometimes we learn poetry. That's technically the lesson we were going to do this week, was on poetry, but we can move that. We can do that later on, because we have other units where there's only 4 lessons, but we have 5 days in a week. So we'll do the poetry lesson another time. But this one is important to do right now because it's on something that you guys are going to be using when you start researching for your president project. Okay? So the genre of this passage is something that you guys are going to be using when you start researching. Okay? So pay close attention as we learn how to use this so that when you have it on your own, you know exactly what to do. When you have it on your president, or if we do one on Martin Luther King, if we have time, you'll know how to use this, okay? So go ahead and tell us the genre, me. Okay, so everybody, finger ready to follow along on the little bookmark on the top left of page 266. What we are going to read today comes from this genre. It is an electronic encyclopedia. You may have even used those in the past in library, when you use World Book and things like that. Well, now we're going to really dive into it, what each of these pieces mean. Electronic encyclopedias include articles, diagrams, and photographs on many topics. So what is the author's purpose when they are writing an encyclopedia article? Remember, what are the 3 reasons that authors write? Those 3 reasons that authors write. What's one of them? Michaela? To inform. What's another one? Zadie?
To entertain.
To entertain. And what's the third one? Starts with a P. Cullen?
To provide.
not provide. Michaela? To persuade. Remember, to inform means they're trying to teach you something. To entertain means they just want you to enjoy yourself. To persuade means they're trying to get you to do or believe something. So looking at what an electronic encyclopedia is, make sure that you're looking and not playing with something in your hands. Looking at what an electronic encyclopedia is, what do you think the author's purpose of writing an electronic encyclopedia entry would be? What's the author's purpose? Zari?
To inform.
To inform. They're trying to teach you about a topic. Now, would an electronic encyclopedia be an example of fiction or nonfiction? Smith?
Nonfiction.
Nonfiction. Because remember, nonfiction means it's not made up. Fiction is made up. Nonfiction is not made up. If somebody's writing to inform, are they going to tell you things that aren't true and make a story up? If somebody's writing to inform, are they going to make up a story? No, because it isn't going to actually teach you anything. So electronic encyclopedias are written to inform, and they are nonfiction. They are true. So what do you think we're going to find a lot of? Are we going to find a lot of facts or a lot of opinions in today's passage? Are we going to find a lot of facts or are we going to find a lot of opinions? Mason? Facts. Because if they want to teach us something, we're going to see a lot of facts. Stories that are written to entertain may not really have much of either. Things that are written to persuade. Ooh, that's a good question. If something is written to persuade, do you think that there's going to be a lot of facts or a lot of opinions? Zadie?
More opinions.
More opinions, because they want to make you believe or do something. So they're going to tell you why they think you should do it. And if it's why they think you should do it, does that mean everybody will agree with that, Zadie, or we can prove it? No, it means that's how they feel. And when people share how they feel, it's an opinion. Okay. Now, the text feature that we're really going to be paying attention to, follow along on that bookmark, are toolbars. We see these, we don't really see them in books, except for this because it's pretending to be an electronic encyclopedia, but we see this on the computer all the time. Toolbars help you find more information or move to a different area in an electronic encyclopedia. You know how a website has all those words in that bar at the top? That's a toolbar, so that you can get to your favorites, or you can type in a new address, or you can go back, or you can go forward, or you can refresh it. If you're on an app, on a computer, not as much on like a tablet or a phone, but on a computer, it has the little bar at the top that has like where you can exit, where you can make the screen bigger, where you can make it smaller. If it's like Word, it'll also be like, here's how to get, you'll click this button to get to start a new page, or you'll click this button to change the font. Those are all toolbars. Toolbars help you get around, and they also help you change the page. Okay. So let's look at this. Start with the title, and then read us that first blue box. Smith. Everybody follow along with your finger. We're starting with the blue box. Well, the title and then the blue box.
Snakes. Physical characteristics.
Characteristics. So read the word character. That's the base word. And then istics is a suffix. Okay?
Physical characteristics.
Characteristics. So characteristics. Characteristics.
Snakes are reptiles. They have flexible skeletons and no legs. Their bodies are covered with scales. Clear scales even cover their eyes. Most snakes are colored to camouflage them. For example, the emerald tree boa is green. This helps it hide among tree leaves. Other snakes, like coral snakes, are brightly colored to warn enemies that they are poisonous. Snakes range greatly in size. The dwarf blind snake is 10 centimeters, around 4 inches long. The anaconda and
Cover up the D, and how would you read that?
reticulate
Now add the D sound to the end.
and reticulated
There you go.
python can be as long as 10
M stands for meters.
meters, about 33 feet.
So, remember, this is an example of an electronic encyclopedia. Electronic encyclopedias have different articles written to inform. So this first little piece of the article tells us about physical characteristics. That's what it looks like. So these are examples of how snakes actually look. What their bodies are type. They're covered in scales. They have no legs. They are very flexible. They can camouflage themselves. Some of them are brightly colored. Some of them are short and small. Some are really long and big. Some of them are not brightly colored. Some are camouflaged. Some are brightly colored. They're camouflaged so they blend in. They're brightly colored to warn predators to stay away. So this little box that Smith just read is a short little article on what snakes look like. Now let's look at the orange box below. Thank you, Smith. Colin, what is this orange box going to tell us about snakes?
Behavior.
How they behave. So we just read about what they look like. Now we're going to read about how they behave. Remember, these are called headings. Physical characteristics and behavior are called headings. Remember, we learned that headings and subheadings tell us what? Who remembers? What do headings and subheadings tell us? Confidence. Michaela? It's going to tell us what the section is about. Very good. Be confident. I would rather you raise your hand and try and give a wrong answer as long as you're trying and it's not out of nowhere than just sit there like, especially because some of you have the right answer up here and you're just like scared. Don't be scared. Be confident. Okay. Cullen, please tell us about snake's behavior.
Say the title. Behavior. Like all reptiles, snakes are cold-blooded. They cannot make their own body heat. Snakes need the sun or warm surroundings to keep them warm. In cool weather, many snakes gather underground or in other places.
Not shelters, but
Sheltered
there you go.
places. They hibernate, meaning they stay at rest during the winter.
So this tells us all about how snakes behave. We know they're cold-blooded, which means they will come out in the sun to warm up. So there's one behavior. Their cold-bloodedness also causes them to have to find a warm place to hibernate in the winter. So we read that they bundle up together, a bunch of them get together and huddle up underground, and that's another behavior they have. Remember, electronic encyclopedias also have pictures. So to the left of what Cullen just read, we see a picture of what? How do we know what this is a picture of? Where do we look to see what this is a picture of? Zadie?
Under the picture.
What is that called? What are the words underneath a picture called? There's a specific word for it. Zari?
Subtitle.
Not a subtitle. Cullen?
A caption.
A caption. A caption are the words underneath a picture or a diagram that tell you what the picture or diagram is. So, Zadie, what is this picture of?
It's a bunch of snakes under the shelter.
Well, remember, we look at the caption to tell us what we're looking at. So what does this caption tell us this picture is of?
Timber rattlesnake.
This is Latin, so it's just, Latin is nice because it has all the letters, they're spelled exactly how it sounds. You can sound it out.
Northeastern United States.
So this picture is of timber rattlesnakes. Then we have the scientific name. Remember, we learned about scientific names. Scientific names are the genus and the species of that animal. So this is Crotalus horridus. And then that last line tells us what? Northeastern United States. What does that line tell us? Smith?
That they are found in northeastern United States.
Good. That tells us where we can find them. Now, this picture didn't tell us why they're all together like this under a rock. But based on the paragraph that Cullen just read, we can say, what are these snakes doing? What do you think these snakes are doing? Mason?
Hibernating.
Hibernating. Why do you think that?
Because they're all bunched under a rock.
They're all bunched under a rock, okay? How do you know that when they all bunch up together under a rock, that means they're probably hibernating?
Because it's probably really cold outside.
Okay, and where did you see information that led you to that thought, that inference? In the under behaviors. What did it say, Mason?
Like all reptiles, snakes are cold-blooded. They can't make their own bodies.
What else in that paragraph?
Snakes need sun.
Oh, does this show them in the sun? What's the exact sentence that tells us these snakes are probably doing this and hibernating? You can find it. Read it, read all the sentences, skim all the sentences in your head. Once you read it, you'll know, oh, this is the one.
In cool weather, many snakes gather underground or in other sheltered places.
There we go. That's the sentence that tells us they gather together, they bundle up underground, under a rock is probably underground, in sheltered places. Well, under a rock is definitely sheltered. Oh, this says or other. Under a rock is definitely a sheltered place. And then the next sentence tells us they're hibernating there. So we can take those two sentences, put them together to say, oh, those snakes are hibernating there. Okay, thank you. Now, before we read these little blurbs in the orange boxes, the orangey pink boxes, let's look at how to use this skill. This skill, check, says using a toolbar. Click on the related articles menu and select the subject about which you want to learn more. So what that means, it's telling you, now we can't click because this is a book. Like, it's not going to do anything. It's not going to happen. We're just poking the book. But if you were on a computer, you could use the mouse to click on the word related articles. It's going to tell us related means they have something to do with each other. Remember, we talk about this in math a lot. The related facts mean they're multiplication and division that go together. They're like a family, fact family. Well, related articles means we're going to read articles. We can go there for more information about something related to snakes. Which of these related articles would you click on to find how anacondas trap their prey? You had this question, how do anacondas trap their prey? You didn't find it on the snakes page, because I don't see anything about anacondas on this snakes page. Ignore the little orange and pink boxes, because they don't come up till after. And you're like, well, that doesn't answer my question about anacondas. I know anacondas are a type of snake, so there's probably going to be something about anacondas in the related articles. So you click the related articles, what would you click next? What would you click next? Zari?
You would click
if you need to, you would scroll down or whatever, and then you would find anaconda.
So, this little box that came up, look at where it says related articles. Everybody point to where it says related articles on that toolbar. Point to where it says related articles on that toolbar. Do you see how there's a lighter blue box coming down? That's called a drop-down menu. It doesn't appear until you click on that article. So, pretend we haven't clicked on that box yet. Pretend we haven't clicked on the related articles button yet. That box would not exist. That box, cover it with your hand because it doesn't exist. Now use your other finger to pretend like you're the mouse. Click the word related articles, and what comes up? Zadie? The little drop-down menu. So we have related articles. We have a related article about anacondas. We have a related article about coral snakes. We have a related article about emerald tree boas, and we have a related article about skeletons. Which of those little pieces in the drop-down menu would you click to find out how anacondas trap their prey? Aaron? You would click on anaconda. Because of course, would it tell us how an anaconda traps their prey in an article about coral snakes? Or an article about emerald tree boas? Or an article about skeletons? No. No, it wouldn't. Now, we want to use toolbars when we're researching a project, or when we're researching a topic, because not all the information we need is going to be on this first page. If you were doing a project on anacondas, would you find all of your information on this article about snakes? No, you may find some important information because there's some stuff that's the same about all snakes. But where would you have to go? You want to find more information about anacondas. Your research is not complete yet. So that's why you want to look at related articles to see if you can find something, if you can find more information. Please focus. A lot of you are playing with your books or playing with your hands or just looking all over, playing with your face shield. Focus so that you can do well on the independent practice. And then when we do this for our presidents or Martin Luther King, if we have time, you'll be able to do it without being confused. Okay, now those other pages we're not going to see too much. Multimedia, if you clicked on that button next to the related articles, everybody find the multimedia button. That would probably have videos and more pictures of snakes, like more pictures and maybe some videos of snakes. Contents page is what you would click. It's like a table of contents. You're going to click it to find all the sections in this article about snakes so that you can move forward. Like say you wanted to write an article about you wanted to write something, a paragraph about snakes behavior. But you don't have time to read all about it. So you would click contents page and you would scroll down to where it says behavior and you'd click behavior and it'd bring you right to that part of the article. So it would skip physical characteristics since you don't need to know about that right now. And it would go right to behavior so that you knew, okay, this is where I'm going to find information about their behavior. Okay, so now in these little orangey pink boxes, we just see some previews of what these related articles might look like. The type of information we might find in those related articles. So, if you clicked on the related article about coral snakes, Ethan, tell us what you may read about.
A coral snake. A kind of
Louder.
coral snake. A kind of poisonous snake found in North and South America. There are about 30 species. Coral snakes all have bright bands of color on their bodies and are 2 to 3 feet in length. They hunt lizards and other snakes.
Okay, so that's the type of information you'd have if you clicked the related article about coral snakes. What if you click the related article about anacondas? Zari, are you able to read right now? Okay. What type of information would you read if you clicked the related article about anacondas?
Anaconda. a member of a boa family living in swamps and rivers in South America. The anaconda looks like other
Not looks.
boas.
There's no looks. The word looks is not there.
The anaconda, like other boas, wraps itself around its prey to suffocate it. It is one of the largest and thickest snakes and bears living young.
Live young. So bears means that's the type of babies it has. So that means, do anacondas lay eggs? If they bear live young, do they lay eggs? No. Because eggs are not live young. They're not, they have to be warmed up in order to be born. So that means anacondas don't lay eggs. Yes, Zadie, quickly.
Which is weird because usually snakes lay eggs.
I know, it is weird. It's different than what we think. Especially because this says that reptiles lay eggs. Does that mean every single reptile must lay eggs? No, it's like how mammals don't lay eggs, but there are like 3 mammals that do lay eggs. A platypus, maybe 2. A platypus and then something else that I can't remember. Is this about laying eggs? Kind of, but it's like a platypus. A platypus is still a mammal. It just lays eggs. It's just different. It's weird. It's a weird one. It's still a reptile because it does the rest of these things. It's cold-blooded, has a backbone, and slithers on its belly. It just doesn't lay eggs. Like a platypus. A platypus has a backbone, is warm-blooded, walks on legs, but just lays eggs. So it's still a reptile, just one that does something weird. Look at this picture at the bottom. What is this a picture of? Ethan? A coral snake. How do you know that? It says coral snake. What is that called? A what? Well, that's what the snake is called, but what is that little thing that tells us what it is? What is that called? It's what goes with the picture to tell us what it's about or what it's of. What is that part called? Smith?
The caption.
A caption. Remember, the words near a picture or a diagram are the caption. That tells us what the picture or the diagram or the table or the chart or whatever is. Otherwise, we may be like, why is this picture here? I don't know. The caption tells us. Okay, go ahead and turn the page. Look at this page. Look at page 268. How do you know what this article is about? I don't see a title, but how do I know what this article or what encyclopedia, electronic encyclopedia entry this is? Aaron? Loudly. Okay, but how do I know it's not about a certain type of snake? How do I know without having to read the articles or the paragraphs, how do I know it's not about a certain type of snake or a certain thing that has to do with snakes? Michaela?
Because over here where it says related articles, there's all different kinds of snakes.
Okay, well how do I know I hadn't clicked on that on one and that's why I found this? Or this isn't about the anaconda and then it's just telling me other types of snakes. Colin?
Because up on the top where it says find, in the box it says snakes.
Good. Everybody find the word that says find and the box that says snake. That's the same thing as a search bar. Just usually we see them, they say search. Sometimes they'll say find. That means somebody searched for snakes and this is what came up. You'll see that on when you look it up too. So that's how we know this is about snakes without having to scroll up to the top or without having to read every bit of information. We can see this is about snakes because we see in the search bar. Everybody point to the search bar. A search bar is a very important part of an electronic encyclopedia Because what if you're reading an article and you're like, wow, this is not helpful at all. I'm on the wrong president. Where should you go to fix that problem? Carla,
To go on the search bar.
you go to the search bar and you type the correct president or topic. Okay, so the search bar is very important when doing research on an electronic encyclopedia. So we know we're still talking about snakes. We didn't click one of the related articles. We're not on anacondas or coral snakes or emerald tree boas or skeletons because we can see we're still on the page that we found by typing in snakes in the search bar. So now we're just reading more things that have to do with all or most snakes. Michaela, what is this purple section all about? What is the heading of this purple section or the subheading? Because the heading is snakes. That's what this whole article is about, right? But then the subheading tells us what this piece of the article on snakes is about.
It's about hunting and eating.
Hunting and eating. So now we're going to find out, how does the snake get its food? Okay, Michaela, go ahead and read. Loud and slow.
Snakes are meat eaters, but do not chew their prey. They swallow animals whole. Snakes can stretch their jaws far apart. This lets them eat animals that are bigger than them, their own heads.
Good. Think about when you have like a hamburger. Like a big hamburger from like a restaurant that's not fast food. It's like big. Can you stuff the whole thing in your mouth? No, it's too big for your mouth. If you do, you're going to choke. You're going to hurt your jaw. You're going to get it all over your face because it's not going to fit. Well, a snake is able to eat something way bigger than what their mouth is because their jaw can actually come apart. So they can open their mouth like as wide or wider than their head so that big animals or things can get in their mouth. Like if we look at this picture to the left, we see an egg eater snake from the savannah in South Africa. What does it have inside of there? Look, you can see its head, it's real little, and then all of a sudden there's this big like ball. Is that just how it looks, Zadie?
No.
No. What does it have in there?
An egg.
An egg. Well, we know, look how small its head is. Its head is tiny. How did it fit that egg in there? Well, what Michaela just read told us it stretched its jaw apart. We can't do that. We can't make our jaw come apart. Like, if that happened, we'd have to go to the hospital. If our jaw came apart, that would mean it's broken. We have to go to the hospital to get fixed, probably have surgery. Well, a snake can just unhinge it, like break it apart. Not break it, stretch it apart because it doesn't break. Get that egg in its mouth, then close it back up. If you've ever been to the zoo, this is sad to me, so we're not going to talk about it for long. We're not going to make comments about it. But I understand it's the circle of life. If you've been to the zoo on a day when they feed the really big, the anaconda that they have in there, I think it's an anaconda or whatever it is, the reticulated python, if you go there on a certain day, you'll see it has a big lump in it. That's because it was fed an animal that's much larger than its head. It's really sad though, so, I mean, I understand it. It has to happen, but we're not going to make comments on it. But you can see it. It's like got this big lump in its body that's much bigger than its head. It's because it stretched its jaw, ate that thing, then closed it back up. And now it's going through its body. Yes, quickly, is this about the anaconda or the reticulated python eating an animal that's larger than its head? Okay. Aaron, what would you like to say? Not this year, but maybe last year or the year before. Not this year. We didn't learn about snakes that unhinged their jaw this year, but you may have in the past, because that's a lot of stuff that you learn in science. Okay. Michaela, keep going. Loud and slow.
Constrictors such as constrictor.
Boa. Usually OA would sound like O, but when it's at the end of a word, we would usually say OA, usually.
Boa constrictor, wrap themselves around their prey. These snakes suffocate their prey and then swallow it. Some snakes are venomous.
Not venomous. Cover up O-U-S, and how would you say that word? Venom. And then we add O-U-S, which just sounds like us if it's a suffix.
Venomous.
Not venomous. You're adding a syllable and an R. Cover up O-U-S. You said it correctly earlier. Venom. Cover up venom. When O-U-S is a suffix, that means it's the letters added to the end of the word. We just say it like us. So put venom and us together in one word.
Venoms.
You're
Venom.
not venoms. That's not venom and us smashed together. Take venom and us and put it together. And what is that word? We're saying venom and we're saying us, but it's one word. You're missing the M. Venom, us. But now put it together so it's one word, no space. Venomous. Okay? Some snakes.
Some snakes are venomous and kill their prey with portions.
Not portion.
Portions.
Remember, O-I sounds like oi. There's no R. R is a letter that we only say if it's there. There is nothing that sounds like an R other than an R. Like, sometimes we have S's, but we say Z sound, or we have C's, but we say K sound or S sound. R's are the only thing that sounds like R. Even if we have WR, well, there's still an R there to make it sound like R. Okay? So no R sound unless there's an R sound there. So let's break it up into the syllables. O-I sounds like what? When you have O-I together, what does it sound like? This could be for anybody. When you have O-I together, what does it sound like? Ethan. Oi. So, poi, sun. What does that sound like? If we put poi and sun together, we have poison. But that's not a word, but it sounds like something we know is a word. Not poison, that's not a word. But we know there's a word close to that. S can sometimes make this sound, especially if it's in the middle of a word. Poison sounds like poison. There you go. And we know sometimes S makes the Z sound, right? So poison sounds like poison. Okay? Some snakes.
Some snakes are venomous and kill their prey with poison. Venomous snakes such as rattlesnakes eject.
Not eject, but
Inject
there you go.
their poison through their fangs. Some poisons kill the animals. Others break down the animals.
Not flash, but
Flash.
not flash. That would have an A in the middle. This has an E. So we say short E sound. Flesh.
Flesh. So they in it.
So not so they, but
So that it is. Partly digest by the time the snake eats it.
okay? So now we know how a snake gets its prey. Or, I'm sorry, how it gets its food, at least how some of them. Do all snakes, let's see. Yeah, sorry. Okay, very good. Please read next, Carla. What is the next section? So let's finish this really quick, and then you'll just have reading homework instead of reading independent practice. Okay. Carla, what's the next section going to tell us about?
The next section is going to tell us how snakes raise their young.
It's going to tell us how they raise their young, how baby snakes grow into old snakes. Okay, Carla, go ahead, quickly.
Most female
Start with the
snakes
subtitle, or the subheading.
raising young. Most female snakes lay eggs that have soft, leathery chips. Some females stay close to guard the eggs. Others, such as
Pythons.
coil around the eggs and keep them warm. Some snakes give birth to live babies.
Live babies. If it's an adjective, that means we're saying as live. If it's a verb, we're saying live. This is an adjective because it's describing the babies. So we say it as live babies.
No. Gathering snakes can have more than 14 baby snakes at once. Snakes do not actively take care of their young.
So that means, does a mom snake feed the babies like a person or a dog? No. Snakes don't usually take care of their young. They lay the eggs, they keep them warm, and as soon as the eggs hatch, the baby snakes are on their own. They are on their own to get their food. They're on their own to stay warm. They're on their own to figure out how to hibernate. They're just on their own. Think about it, most animals would probably die. But snakes must be able to do this, otherwise we'd have no snakes, right? The fact that we still have snakes means they can do this. Baby snakes are able to figure out how to eat, how to survive in the cold, how to hide, how to camouflage, all of that. Or do you think they're all able to do it right away? Or do you think it's still hard for them? Cullen?
Hard.
It's probably still hard because, well, we actually read something earlier in the year about baby snakes. Okay, so now again, we see this related articles button, and we see boa constrictor, garter snake, python, and rattlesnake. Now notice these were all snakes that we read. We read about these snakes, like they mentioned these snakes in our article, right? So where do you think the related article titles come from? How do you think the electronic encyclopedia knows to bring up these particular related articles? Sorry?
Because if it's in what you've already read, then it's probably somewhere else on the
So they're mentioned in the article we read. Guys, you're not going to be able to do your independent practice if you're not listening. Why is that in your hand and not on your head? If it's mentioned in the article, well, that probably means it has something to do with it. If boa constrictors are mentioned in the article about snakes, well, that probably means that boa constrictors have something to do with snakes. Same with garter snakes and pythons and rattlesnakes. Now we also see some more information about garter snakes. So this is the type of information that we'd see if we clicked on the related article about garter snakes. I'm going to read this. Garter snake, a common and harmless type of snake in North America. They are fairly small, about 2 feet long, and usually have dark colors with stripes running along their bodies. They live in moist areas and feed on toads, frogs, earthworms, and similar animals. So if you came across a garter snake, should you be scared of it? Does it say anything about being venomous or biting humans? No. They're really little too, so are they that scary? You probably all have them in your yard. Even if you've never seen one, you probably have them. They're outside. They live in here. But do you think that they're out right now? Where do you think they are right now? Mason? Hibernating. Very good. Okay, so really quickly, I'm going to pass out your independent practice that is now homework so that we can look over it really quick, and then you're going to put it in return to school. Girls at home, you should be looking at the page that looks like this. It says practice, text feature, toolbars, and it talks about electronic encyclopedias. Okay, make sure that you read the box at the top. It'll help you. It gives you information about what you're going to see. Then we have an example of 2 pages from an electronic encyclopedia. They started here at the page on the right, and they ended up at the page on the left. Using these right here, you're going to answer these questions. You do not have to answer in complete sentences. Remember how you can figure out how they found the article? Don't forget about the search bar. When we go to a search bar, when we search for something and we click go or enter or whatever or search, it's going to take us to a list of articles that have something to do with our title, with our search. And so we have to pick one we have to pick the one we think will work the best. So, pay close attention to all the buttons that we see at the bottom. Pay attention to the tabs that you see at the top. Pay attention to the titles. Pay attention to every word that you see, and you will do just fine on this paper. Okay? Go ahead and put that in Return to School and put away your reading textbook.